Select a printer. Oh, I don't know how to do it. Let's see. We're going to do something funner. But I was going to read it, but I was going to select a printer. I just go back. We go back. We do the other one. A Kurdecha or Kurdecha man. Also spelled Kadeja, Kadishi, Kadish, Kadesha, Karaj, or Kaditcha is a type of shaman amongst the Arenti people, an Aboriginal group in Central Australia. That's this particular one. The name Featherfoot is used to denote the same figure by other Aboriginal peoples. Man, don't you want to blow that up? Look at it. It's fun right here, though. Yeah. Allurja man using a pointing bone. That's what we're going to talk about. The Kurdacha may be brought in to punish a guilty party by death. The word may also relate to the ritual in which the death is willed by the Kadusha man, known also as bone pointing. The word may also be used by Europeans to refer, that reminds me, where's my bear? To the shoes worn by the Kadusha. The word may also be used by Europeans to refer to the shoes worn by the Kurdacha. The Kurdacha man may be brought in to punish a guilty party by death. The word may also relate to the ritual in which the death is willed by the Kurdacha man, known also as bone pointing. So the ritual of Kurdacha, the word may also be used by Europeans to refer to the shoes worn by the Kurdacha. What do them shoes look like? Which are woven of feathers and human hair. If I'd have kept reading, I'd have found out. And treated with blood. So it's like poke salad, berries, background. Among traditional indigenous Australians, or they die with some of that bloodroot. You gotta be careful with that bloodroot. That and castor oil can put a hurting on you, as well as some other things if you don't know what you're doing with it. Australians. Among traditional indigenous Australians, there is no such thing as a belief in natural death. All deaths are considered to be the result of evil spirits or spells, usually influenced by an enemy. Often, a dying person will whisper the name of the person they think caused their death. If the identity of the guilty person is not known, a magic man will watch for a sign, such as an animal burrow leading from the grave, showing the direction of the home of the guilty party. This may take years, but the identity is always eventually discovered. The elders of the mob that the deceased belonged to then hold a meeting to decide a suitable punishment. Oh, it's good we have trials and them separated powers of legislative, executive branches, judicial branches. And what's that common law court? Oh, I hadn't got Locke. And oh, and yeah, where'd it go though? Should have Locke, Berkeley, Hume. Or I should just start with Mills and go straight to Mills' wife. Oh, a queen in her own right. No, I don't do that though right now. Among traditional indigenous Australians, there's no such thing as a belief in natural death. Yeah. Now watch for a sign. The elders of the mob that the deceased belonged to then hold a meeting to decide a suitable punishment. A Kurducha may or may not be arranged to avenge them. Oh, Illa Purinja. Yeah, I needed to print this. Illa Purinja, literally, the changed one, is a female Kurducha who is secretly sent by her husband to avenge some wrong. Most often, the failure of a woman to cut herself as a mark of sorrow on the death of a family member. Most often, the failure of a woman to cut herself as a mark of sorrow on the death of a family member. Believe, oh, they don't just mark their rifles. Long bone, notches all in it. Believed to be entirely mythical, the fear of the Purinja, Illa Purinja, would be enough to induce the following of the custom. Literally, the changed one is a female who is secretly sent by her husband to avenge some wrong. Most often, the failure of a woman to cut herself as a mark of sorrow on the death of a family member. Oh man, somebody could write a book on that paragraph. Believed to be entirely mythical, the fear of the Illa Purinja would be enough to induce the following of the custom. 20th century, the practice of Kurdecha has died out completely in southern Australia by the 20th century, although it was still carried out infrequently in the north. Amazon's left. There is some Siberia and other places. There's just a few places left, not many. Who wants to live in Siberia? If it had a Waffle House. In a report in the Adelaide Advertiser in 1952, some indigenous men had died in the Grants gold mine in the Tanami Desert. After reporting a sighting of a Kurducha man, they were very scared and danced a corroboree to chase evil spirits away. Anthropologist Ted Strehow and doctors brought in to investigate said that the deaths were most likely caused by malnutrition and pneumonia. And Stinlo said that Aboriginal belief in black magic was in general dying out. We're going to find about them shoes. Europeans also used the name Kardassia to refer to a distinctive type of oval feathered shoes, apparently worn by the Kardassia man. The indigenous names for these shoes are Interlinia in northern Australia and Intaherta in the south. The soles are made of emu feathers and the uppers of human hair or animal fur. So fur, not so much leather. Unless that's leather attached to the fur. You think so? Or they might be human. So they might even use human scalps. I don't know. Or make pork rinds out of them. Eat them. And they couldn't eat the fur, so they made the shoes out of fur. That makes sense. Fur is all in your mouth. Most of the early Europeans' descriptions state that human blood was used as the principal binding agent. Well, if they're believing in that, or if they want to tell a story on it, but hey, they might even believe it. So yeah, they might be. Yeah, they're on. They cut themselves and they let it bleed on their shoes. However, Kim and they got the husband sent the witch. However, Kim Ackerman noted that although human blood might indeed have been used to charge the shoes with magical power, it is likely felting was actually the main method used to bind the parts together. The upper surface is covered with a net woven from human hair. An opening in the center allows the foot to be inserted. So it's emu, and then it's sewn together with hair. They're geniuses. In some instances, shoes were allowed to be seen by women and children. In others, it was taboo for anyone but an adult man to see them. Depending on who had them. What priest is in charge? When not in use, they were kept wrapped in kangaroo skin. They had the kangaroo pouch. I mean, if you eat the kangaroo, it comes with a backpack. When not in use, they were kept wrapped in kangaroo skin or hidden in a sacred place. Although they were permitted to be used more than once, they usually did not last more than one journey. When in use, they were decorated with lines of white and pink down and were said to leave no tracks. Wise men say, there's a few things I won't say out loud. Spencer and Gillen noted that genuine Kardassia shoe has a small opening on one side where a dislocated little toe can be inserted. Well, that's just a mighty interesting little tidbit when you think about it. There's some detail to it that might be worth noting. Spencer and Gillen noted that the genuine Kardassia shoe has a small opening, so it's got like, it's not sewn like a 2 foot, like a frog suit or something, or a karate suit. It's an opening where it's actually sticking out. The little toe sticks out on one side. And it's, I guess, intentionally there. Maybe it's sewn around it for it to. I want to know. In 1896, Patrick Byrne, a self-taught anthropologist, I like those type, at Charlotte Waters Telegraph Station, published a paper entitled Note on the customs connected with the use of so-called Kardasha shoes of Central Australia. In the Proceedings of the Royal Society of Victoria, the paper was described as a careful piecing together of Kardasha revenge technique from accounts obtained from old men in the Charlotte Waters area in 1892. Just like the West and the Indians, Aboriginal people also began to make Kardasha shoes for sale to Europeans. And Spencer and Gillen noted seeing ones that were, in fact, far too small to have actually been worn. Until the 1970s, these shoes were a popular craft item made to sell to visitors in many sites in the central and western desert areas of Australia. There we are, baby. The bone man of the Merian people. The expectation that death would result from having a bone pointed at a victim is not without foundation. A bone man. The expectation that death would result from having a bone pointed at a victim is not without foundation. Other similar rituals that cause death have been recorded around the world. I could click that and be gone for days. On another one, victims become listless and apathetic, usually refusing food or water, with death often occurring within days of being cursed. When victims survive, it is assumed that the ritual was faulty in its execution. The phenomenon is recognized as psychosomatic, in that death is caused by an emotional response, often fear, to some suggested outside force, and is known as voodoo death. As this term refers to a specific religion, the medical establishment has suggested that self-willed death or bone-pointing syndrome is more appropriate. In Australia, the practice is still common enough that hospitals and nursing staff are trained to manage illness caused by bad spirits and bone pointing. They just said it was dying out a long time ago. Now they're saying that they're even trained. I mean, get it together, Wikipedia. Well, which one is it? All right. Examples. The following story is related about the role of Kardasha by anthropologists John Godwin and Ronald Rose. In 1953, a dying Aborigine named Kinjika was flown from Arnhem Land in Australia's Northern Territory to a hospital in Darwin. All right, here we are. We're back in Australia. Tests revealed he had not been poisoned, injured, nor was he suffering from any sort of injury. Yet the man was most definitely dying. After 4 days of agony spent in the hospital, Kinjika died on the 5th. It was said he died of bone pointing. Bone pointing is a method of execution used by the Aborigines. It is said to leave no trace. It never fails to kill its victim. The bone used in this curse is made of human, kangaroo, emu, or even wood. The shape of the killing bone, or condella, varies from tribe to tribe. The lengths can be from 6 to 9 inches. Where's my drums? They look like a long needle, and I got to fix my hi-hat again. Duct tape. I might do it with like a at least fishing line this time. I might get out the wire later. So the lengths can be from 6 to 9 inches. They look like a long needle. And the rounded end, a piece of hair is attached through the hole and glued into place with a gummy resin. Sap. Gummy resin. Oh, that reminds me of the rhododendron honey. Before it can be used, the candela is charged with a powerful psychic energy in a ritual that is kept secret from women and those who are not tribe members. To be effective, the ritual must be performed faultlessly. The bone is then given to the Kurdacha, who are the tribe's ritual killers. These killers then go and hunt and curse. If the person has fled, I mean, it didn't say curse, but I'm saying that's what they're doing. They're ruling. They're judging people. Buddy, there's some judges going around that actually are, people believe they're judges because they're dying. They are the tribe's ritual killers. That must be some like witch doctor. Supreme Court judge? Or is it not even that? There's a whole lot of them. Bring out the guillotines. These killers then go and hunt. If the person has fled, the condemned, the name Kurducha comes from the slippers they wear while on the hunt. All right. These killers then go and hunt if the person has fled. These killers then go and hunt the condemned. So they send out a search party. Hey, I bet if you talk to these people, there's a city of refuge or a place that they can talk. There was even those at times for people today. And Luther. These killers then go and hunt the condemned. All right. The name Kurdacha comes from the slippers they wear while on the hunt. The slippers are made of cockatoo or emu feathers and human hair. They virtually leave no footprints. There's some feather-footed fables. Also, they wear kangaroo hair and a backpack. Boy, if they wear a kangaroo backpack and feather feet, featherfoot fable. Also, they wear kangaroo hair, which is stuck to their bodies after they coat themselves in human blood. And they also don masks of emu feathers. That's a whole lot to take in like a sentence, a compound sentence. That's so much to take in a compound sentence. Also, they wear kangaroo hair, which is stuck to their bodies after they coat themselves in human blood, and they also don masks of emu feathers. All right, they hunt in pairs of threes and will pursue their quarry for years if necessary, never giving up until the person has been cursed. All right. That's probably an extension of, but it's definitely going on. They probably don't last for years, but they will if they have to. If somebody's telling me that story. But it's interesting that they're using long pointed bones or wood or wands. They won't give up. Once the man is caught, one of the Kardasha goes down onto one knee and points the candela. The victim is said to be frozen with fear and stays to hear the curse. A brief, piercing chant that the Kardasha chants. Then he and his fellow hunters return to the village, and the candela is ritually burned. The shape of the killing bone, or candela, varies from tribe to tribe. The lengths can be from 6 to 9 inches. They look like a long needle. At the rounded end, a piece of hair is attached through the hole and glued into place with a gummy resin. And it's charged, and the killers go, and their feather-footed fable. And then he and his fellow hunters return to the village, and the candela is ritually burned. The condemned man may live for several days or even weeks, but he believes so strongly in the curse that has been uttered that he will surely die. It is said that the ritual loading of the candela creates a spear of thought, which pierces the victim when the bone is pointed at him. It is as if an actual spear has been thrust at him and his death is certain. Kanjika has been accused of an incestuous relationship. Their mothers were the daughters of the same woman. By different fathers. Kanjika had been accused of an incestuous relationship. Well, there's a whole lot of bone points going on. their mothers were the daughters of the same woman by different fathers. Man, I'm not even drunk, and I can't even figure that out right off the bat. But it's about bedtime, and I need one more little pony. One more pony. You know, she likes those little tiny sprites. People pay just as much for little bitty cans because they're so cute. And they even got me looking for them. For only certain flavors, like vanilla Coke. I like vanilla Coke, but I like it in some things. I like juice or whatever, but oh yeah, everything's good in vodka and sour mash. But little bitty cans of vanilla Coke, I'd even buy them. So I got a little bitty can. Yeah, ponies. One more pony. But pony beers are even better. I learned something last week. When I have a can, I always pop it open, and I always pop it all the way open till it's wide open, because I like wide mouth bottles and fat bottoms or fat lids anyway. But I always open the can all the way open. But every now and then I'll find one around. I've been finding them around. And they're barely cracked. It's like somebody's just went pop, pop, and just enough to crack it. And I'm like, what? Well, I found out they're doing that intentional. And now if you sip it fast, you just pop it open. But if you just sip it, it keeps the flavor better. It keeps the carbonation better. The reason I know, because I picked one up like nearly a day later after it'd been opened, and it still had like almost all its fizz. And I know because it'd been sitting on the kitchen table. Anyway, I said that, and I'm like, I learned that. And they're like, I know that. So I'm like, yeah, deceit. I learned something. Somebody already knew that though. Anyway, Kanjinka had been accused of an incestual relationship that I can't understand, and have different fathers, and there's something going on. I don't know who's a she and a he, and I don't really know. Instead of going to his trial, all I know is these witch doctors got a bone to point. It's got like a spear. Instead of going to his trial, he fled the village. The hunters found him and cursed him. It is said that is why he died. In 2004, an Indigenous Australian woman who disagreed with the abolition of the Aboriginal-led government body, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Commission, cursed the Australian Prime Minister John Howard by pointing a bone at him. In 2004, an Indigenous Australian woman who disagreed with the abolition of the Aboriginal-led government body, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Commission. In 2004, an Indigenous Australian woman who disagreed with the abolition of the Aboriginal-led government body cursed the Australian Prime Minister by pointing a bone at him. So an indigenous woman in '04 come out with a wand. Yeah. A large number of feather-footed fables are in collections. However, most are too small for feet or do not have the small hole in the side. It is speculated that due to difficulty of their construction, many shoes are made as practice rather than to be worn. Where'd the pony go? Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people should be aware that trove contains images, voices, and names of deceased persons because they had a stick pointed at them. Be really interesting to have a Kurdacha. My hi-hat broke. I gotta quit because in 2004, a lady came with a wand. But there's lots of other stuff too.